Hi students, good morning. Welcome to this class. So we are in our class 5 of Core Java Part 1. So slowly, we are writing more programs. We are trying to understand how do we code in Java? What are the different steps that are involved? We were able to play around with some variables. We were able to play around with some basics of Java. So in today's class, instead of taking a topic that adds, what I wanted to do today is to give you a different perspective, or maybe just to explain a little bit more of whatever we have learned. Okay, so I want to write the agenda for today as we do it always. So this is our agenda for today. So I will just say, or maybe the heading is variable usage and rules. So variable usage and rules, our main focus today will be on the variable usage and rules. We have already seen different programs that we have played around to learn the concept of variables. Okay, so today what is our agenda? I'll say variable naming, or I'll say naming rules. This is one thing that we'll be learning today. And then the other is some important points about variables. So I'll be speaking about a few important points about variables, and at the end, even though this topic is not interrelated, but I want to cover this so that you'd be well versed and you'd have a good foundation of whatever you learned till today. That is internal working of a Java program. Of a Java program. Internal working of a Java program. So let's take small steps to understand all these three topics. By the way, these are not complex topics. At the same time, these are not easy ones. You have to memorize a bit and you have to practice a bit to become a master about all these things. And as I have already told you, these are basics and you should be crystal clear on the basics to make your understanding even more as you go day by day in your learning journey of Java. Okay, so let me go to the first topic. Let me go to the first topic and let's try to do one by one. Let's try to do one by one. So we have seen a few variable. We have seen a few variable. Let me take variable 2 as an example. This is the Java file. I'll say right click. Uh, Wait a second. I want to open it with Notepad++. Notepad++, as I've already told you, this is the software that we are using. We are using for learning about Java or writing the Java programs. So you can see here, B is a variable, S is a variable, I is a variable, L is a variable, right? So all these are the variables, and then we have we have decimal numbers. F is a variable, D is a variable. So similarly, I bool is a variable, C is a variable. So all these things are the variables. But now, as a programmer or as a programmer who is interview ready or as a working professional in a company, it is generally not recommended to use a name something like this. For our learning, we have used it, that is fine. But whenever a person sees a variable, he should understand, okay, this is what this variable is going to do. This is what this variable is going to do. For example, it's like this. When you see a Bisleri water bottle, it should come into your mind that, okay, most probably there is water that is getting stored into this bottle. Even though water is not there, you should get that intuition that, okay, water is going into it. Like For example, let's say people would argue, sir, a few people carry petrol or diesel also, right, in emergency situation in that water bottle. That is fine. But in general case, 99.99% cases, you'd be using water bottle to fill water only, right? Are you not allowed to fill anything else? You are allowed, but that is not recommended. Even to carry petrol or diesel or to whatever extent, medicine or cool drink, there are dedicated bottles. But in rare scenarios, we would be using the same bottle for all the things. So similarly in Java, in some situations, we will be using the same variables to different purposes. But is it recommended? It is not recommended. Is it allowed? Yes, it is allowed. Java is saying, no, you cannot do it. It's not like that. Java is saying you can do it. But as an experienced programmer or a good learner, you shouldn't be doing that. So for that, you need to understand that there are a few rules. There are a few rules. These rules I'll be writing one by one so that we would understand what exactly I mean. So I'll say something like this. Variable name should start with lower case and follow follow camel case. So what is camel case, by the way? So I mean generally lower and then camel case, that itself is called as camel case. For your understanding, I just have put something like this. I want to give you an example. I want to give you an example. I want to give you an example, something like this. Employee name. So there are two, maybe I'll just put it like this. Employee name is an example. There are two words in it, right? Employee and name. It should start with lower case, and then if there is any new word, then that should have a capital case, so that you would actually understand that these are two words, but we are combining them as a single one. This is per the variable name. This is a naming convention. One more, maybe I can say student address. There are two words in it, right? One is student and the other is address. Now, how are we following the rule? The rule says it should start with the lower case and it should follow the camel case. Okay, so maybe I can say person, date of birth. So here there are four words. One is person, the other is date, the other is of, and the other is birth. So you can see that there are four words, but we are following the naming convention. We are following the naming convention. So this is how we have to write. This is how we have to write the variables. The variables. I want to the every rule that I write, right? So I want to create a new class so that we can actually understand what we are trying to write. What we are trying to write. We have written till variable 4. I want to write a variable 5. So let me take Control N is a shortcut to get a new file. So what is the next one? I should say language J Java. So what I will say class variable 4. Okay. So I just say enter open parenthesis, closed parenthesis. Okay. So here I'll say public static void main. So inside main, I'll say string array of arguments I'll just open parenthesis and then close parenthesis. So here what are we trying to do? We are trying to learn about variable name. Okay. I'll just say camel. I'll just say camel case naming. Okay. I'll say camel case naming. For example, string employee name equal to, I'll just say Mercy. Okay. So we have a string called, we have a variable called employee name, and we are storing a value called Mercy to this employee name. As I told you, just by seeing this variable, we should get some feeling that, okay, fine, this is uh this Mercy is the name that is corresponding to a employee name. If I do something like this, E equal to Mercy, is it not allowed? It is allowed, but you do not know what this E means. But in the other case, when I say employee name equal to Mercy, the moment you see, your brain tells you, okay, fine, this is a employee name. So just for our understanding, we have to make sure that we are doing all this. So I want to print this one. So I'll just say string system, sorry, I'll just say system out dot println. I want to print, I want to print employee name. I'll just say, I will just say, how do I do? I do something like this, equal to, and then plus, and I'm pasting employee name. Okay. How do I save this? I save this by class name. I'll just say file, save as, save as, and Mercy 2025. I'll just say dot Java. Okay, we already have variable 4, by the way. Sorry, let's make it as variable 5. We will make it as variable 5. I would like to copy this and say file, save as, just say, yes, I have created a variable 5.java. Here there is no red color, which means this is saved. So I told you, let me close my console. Let me close my console. I would like to open Mercy 2025. So here I would like to say cmd. So when I say command prompt, I'd like to increase this so that you would see this. Now I'll say Java C variable 5.java, right? So when I say this, I have compiled it. Now let me run this. I'll say Java C variable 5. When I do this, oh, sorry, it is not Java C, it is Java. Okay. So here you can see employee name equal to Mercy. This is what we are able to print. The moment you see what is Mercy, the moment you see employee name is Mercy. Okay. How it comes into your brain? Because you are following some naming convention of a variable. If you do not follow the naming convention, the code is not self-descriptive. A programmer would be ranked as a better programmer when he use very good variable names. Believe me, students, even after having so many years of experience, right? Generally programmers are ranked, or you say are judged based on their variable naming skills also. So how do you name a variable? That is a different story, but first you have to know the rules of naming a variable. So, and after that comes how do we name the variable, but maybe we can park it for later. For now, in our today's class, we'll be learning about all these details. So we are done with our first rule. Let's go to the next rule. What is our next rule? Next rule. It is doing something like this. Let's say variable name can contain variable name can contain. What do they contain? What do they contain? What do they contain? They should only contain letters. They should only contain letters, numbers, and underscore. Letters, numbers, or underscore. So these are the only things that a variable name can contain. That a variable name can contain. So, and then there is a little bit extra to this rule. A little bit extra to this rule. What is that? I'd like to just add one more. So it says can start with letter or underscore only, and not with number. So you cannot start a variable name using a number. So example is employee 1. Is this valid? This is valid. So I'll just give you one more example. one employee. Is this valid? You cannot start it with a number, right? You cannot start it with a number. So this is invalid. So this is invalid. So let me write one more example. We can start it with underscore also, right? We can start it with underscore also. Is this valid? Is this valid? Is this valid? We can start with underscore also. That is what the rule says. By the way, it is valid. So one last thing, employee underscore one. Is this valid? Is this valid? Is this valid? So letters, numbers, or underscore, it cannot start with a number. This did not start with a number. It has only letters. It has only a single number and it has an underscore. Is this valid? Since this satisfies all those things, it is valid. So in this way, there are various combinations that we can use. There are various combinations that we can use until unless it satisfies this particular rule, you are allowed to do it. You are allowed to do it. The first rule says the name should be self-descriptive. The second rule says there are some relations or some rules related to underscore, numbers, and the characters. Okay, that we have already seen, which is again a very good one, so I would like to just try to understand this one. So I'll say usage of score. I'll just say understand. So I'll just say string string employee underscore address underscore one. Let's say there are different types of addresses. So I'd like to give it as something like this, mercy address. Okay, I just want to see if this variable is valid or not. If this variable is valid or not, I'd like to print it. I would like to print it and would like to see if this is valid or not. So what do? I just copy the employee address one. So I'd like to print it over here and I'd like to print it over here. Okay, let's compile this once more. Since this is satisfying all the rules, let's try to see if this compiles properly or not. So what is that? Java C variable 5 dot Java, right? I'll say Java C variable 5. Oh, sorry, again, it is Java variable 5. We have already compiled it. So yes, you can see employee name is Mercy and employee address one is Mercy address. Okay, I'd like to play around. I'd like to play around. I would like to play around by just copying this line. By just copying this line, instead of putting underscore one at the end, I want to put it. I want to put it here. And to put it here on line number 8. On line number 8, let's see what happens. I have saved this program, by the way. I'll say Java C. I want to copy the class name so that I need not write it again and again. So I'll say right click dot Java. Is this compiling? It is not compiling. It is not compiling. What is it saying? It is not a statement. It is not even able to understand what it is. We are saying it is a variable name, but Java compiler is saying, no, 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 boss, it's not like that. I don't even understand what you write. Okay. So this is one employee address and it doesn't want you to write something like that, which is out of the rule. Okay. You should follow the rule for sure. Let's go to the next one so that, or maybe instead, I would like to say, okay, this is invalid usage. This is invalid usage. So let me go to the, let me go to the, let me go back to our notes so that we would write with even more examples. Variable names. The third one is, the third one is, I'd like to say variable, or I'll say C, variable names variable names cannot contain spaces. If you want to separate words, use underscore. So if you want to separate two words in a variable, you generally use underscore or you use a camel case. You do whatever is comfortable to you, but you cannot use them like as two separate words using a space. Using a space, you cannot use a space. By the way, you practice this program, you try to declare a particular variable and try to give a space in between. Try to see what compile time error comes. What compile time error comes. I'm not experimenting that program right now. Right now. Okay. Okay. So one last thing. One last thing is variable names are case sensitive. Case sensitive. What does that mean? What does that mean? Employee, 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 and and employee. Let's say there are two. Let's say there are two variables. One is employee and then employee name, or I can say employee name or employee underscore, or I'll do something like this. Okay, employee name. So this is a camel character and this is all caps character, right? You are allowed to give name something like this, but compiler treats both of them as different variable names. What I mean to say is this is a different variable name. This is a different variable name. Both are not same. Only the case is changing, right? So in that way, both are not same. Both are not same. Let me quickly write that for you. Let me quickly write that for you. I'll just say string employee name equal to employee name. Okay, so I'd like to do one more thing. I would like to do one more thing. So here, instead of doing this, I want to use a camel case. Employee name. Okay, employee name. What I would like to do is I want to print both of these. I want to print both of these. Okay, so let me print. Let me print. So I want to print employee name, copy employee name, and I'd like to print employee name, employee name. By the way, along with this program, what I would be doing is I would make you to learn one more rule, which I would be telling you. But before that, let me run this. What I want to do is I want to just prove that this employee name in all caps and employee name in camel case, both are different. Both are different. I'll just say case. So these are case sensitive. These are case sensitive. I want to prove something like this. And to prove something like this, I have just saved it. I just saved it. Let me run this. Let me 1 second. I'll just say Java C. I want to copy the class name. What is this? Variable 5. And to copy the class name, I'd like to say variable 5 dot Java. Yes. No, there is a problem right now. There is a problem right now. Variable employee name is already defined inside the method. Just remember this rule. You can use the variable only once. Only once. You can use the variable only once inside a method. But I'd be telling that to you as part of our extra notes in variables. But for now, you remember that the employee name, if there is a variable, you can use it only once. You cannot use the same variable multiple times inside a method, inside a method. So what I would like to do is, just for me to understand this, I'd like to say employee name 1 and employee name 1. So here also I want to name it as 1 and 1. What I've done is I just gave a different name now. I just gave a different name now. This is all caps and this is small letters. This is small letters, right? I'd like to see if compiler thinks that both the variables are same or not. Both the variables are same or not. Java C and variable 5 dot Java. When I do this, now Java variable 5. When I do this, now you can see it is treating the capital letters as capital letters and small letters as small letters. So it is not that what I call if you have declared a variable with a different case, they'll be treated the same. It's not like that. There are a few programming languages where, irrespective of the case, the variable name would be treated as the same variable name. But in Java, it is case sensitive. This is very important. This is very important because for fresher level, right, there are multiple programming languages. And if you are giving an interview specific to Java, if they ask a question specific to Java, then you have to remember that variable naming in Java is case sensitive. Case sensitive. So yes. So by the way, students, we have done with our variable naming conventions. So these are variable naming rules, and that's it. If you are well versed with all these rules, then that's it. You don't need to remember or learn about anything else. This is about the variable naming. But I would like to even teach you a small extra points related to the variables. What are the important points related to variables? So I'd like to actually say uh, a few important points. Let me write them down one by one. So I like to say any variable, any variable declared inside a method is a local variable. Any variable that is declared inside a method is called as a local variable. By the way, even main method is also a method, correct? Any variable that you declare inside that is becoming a local variable to the main method. So I'd like to actually take one more class for you to actually understand this. I'll say class variable 6. Okay. So I want to make it as language. I make it as language as Java. So open parenthesis and then close parenthesis. So I'd like to say public static void main. Okay. So inside this string array, sorry, I'd like to say string array of arguments. Okay. So I have opened and closed the parenthesis inside the main method. So I'd like to say local variable. So what is a local variable? Any variable that is inside a method. For example, main is a method that I have already told that to you. The details of this main method, yes, I have packed it for the upcoming classes. Do not worry about it. But any variable that is declared inside a method is called as a local variable. So I'd like to say string student name equal to, let's say, Joseph. Okay, so the student name is Joseph. Okay, so this is a local variable. What is a local variable? Student name. Student name is a local variable. Why is it called as a local variable? It is called as a local variable because it is declared inside a method, which is main method, Now, let me take you to the second point. So what is that? I'd like to say variable. Variable should be declared before is used. Variable should be declared before it is used. variable should be declared before it is used. Let me take it like this. Let me take it like this. So I'd like to put something like this. Variable should be declared before it is used. What I want to do is, I want to add one more. I want to add one more student name 1. I'd like to say Joseph 1. Okay, so I have a new variable called student name 1 and I would like to say Joseph 1. So before that, what I want to do is I want to print the student name. I'd like to say system dot out dot println. So I'd like to print the student name. I'd like to print the student name. So what is that? I'd like to say student name equal to plus the student name. Yes, we are able to see the student name. We are able to see the student name, which is all good, We are able to see the student name. Give me a second, which is all good. Now, I want to print this one for now. I'd like to print this one for now. I'd like to print this one for now. Let me see if it is getting printed properly or not. I'd like to save it as variable 6, copy. So how do I save it? I'll say file, save as variable 6.java. Yes. So I'd like to compile this. Let's say clear screen, Java C variable name dot Java. When I do this, is it compiling? Yes, it is compiling. Java variable 6. What is happening? Yes, student name is Joseph, which is very good. Now, I would like to come back to my rule. What is my rule saying? Variable should be declared before it is used. So it is declared over here. But I want to use it before it got declared only. So I'd like to use system.out.println system.out.println. I would like to use it over here only. Joseph, the student name 1, student name 1. I'd like to say student name. It is declared on line number 8. Okay, it is declared on line number 8, but I'm using it in line number 7. Is it allowed or not? Is it allowed or not? Let me do it. Let me try to compile this again. I'd like to say, okay, I'd like to say Java C. I need to copy the the class name, variable 6 dot. When I do this, is it compiling? It is saying you cannot find the symbol called student name 1. Student name 1. It is saying you cannot find the symbol, which means it is saying I cannot find your variable itself. Why? Because you're trying to print it, even if it is declared, right? You're declaring it on line number 8. On line number 7, how does the compiler know that there is a student name 1 that is being used inside the program? It cannot know, right? It is sequential. It is coming here and trying to print student name 1. But on line number 7, the compiler doesn't even know what student name 1 is. So it is saying, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. So that is why the variable name should be declared before it is used. This is also a very important rule. Very important rule or point that you need to remember about the variable. Let me go and write down the other rule as well. So what is that? Give me a second. Just give me a second. So this is also something related. But but we will do it as part of one more programming example. What it says is variable name. I'll say local variable cannot be used before initialization, or I'll say before it is initialized. So local variable cannot be used before it is initialized. I'd like to experiment this with one more example. Let me write down a comment here, comment here, comment here. So I'd like to copy, or I'd like to comment this so that my next, yeah, I'd like to comment all this. Now, it cannot be used before it is initialized, right? So I'd like to say student name 2. I'd like to say student name 2 is equal to Joseph 2. So I come here. So I'll just say student name 2 is equal to Joseph 2. Joseph 2. But I do not want to initialize this to Joseph 2. I just say semicolon and I do not say anything. I just say student name 2. Let's try to see what will be printed if I try to print this student name 2. So I'd like to say student name 2 copy student name 2 equal to student name 2. Yeah, I'd like to print what comes in student name 2. Generally, as my rule says, I cannot use it before it is initialized. Let's try to see what compiler says in this case. Okay, so I'd like to say Java C. It should be variable 6 copy and say dot Java. So when I do it, so it is saying variable student name 2 might not have been initialized. It is saying, boss, you have declared student name 2. That is all good and all fine, but you have not initialized it. Okay, how do I assume or how do I print its name? Right, I cannot print it. So that is what the compiler is saying. By the way, why this error comes and what is the sequence in which the method gets loaded, what is the sequence in which every line gets parsed, there is a clear-cut explanation for you in the upcoming classes. But for now, you remember that a variable should be initialized. If you do not initialize it and use it, then you would be getting an error something like this. Error something like this. Error something like this. Okay, so the other thing is, this is a very simple example, but I think we have already used it. We have already used it multiple times. I'd like to say more than one local can be used in a method. So you can use any number of variables inside a method. So which means local variables can be used, any number of local variables can be used. There is no capping, there is no restriction, there's nothing like that. Okay, so there is nothing like that. Now, this is a very simple rule, which I think we have been doing it since the day one. In the same method, we are declaring different variables. Java is allowing it. The same thing that I have actually put as an important point. So I'd like to say E. There is one more rule. There is one more rule. There is one more rule. We can initialize a variable and then assign it to another variable. So we can initialize a variable and we can assign it to another variable. So which means it's something like this, which is something like this. Okay. So what I would like to do is, so here also I want to comment. Okay. Here also I'd like to comment. Okay. So what it says is I want to do something like this, right? So I'd like to say here I have student name 3. I'll say Joseph 3. I have initialized this, but we can initialize, but assign it to a different variable. So I'd like to say student Joseph, student name 4, and I'd like to say Joseph 4. Okay, so maybe I would like to copy the rule name, and then paste it so that you would actually understand what it is. Sorry, it should be this. Okay, if I come down, so here what I would like to do is I would like to do student name 4 equal to student name 3. So what I would like to do is I'd like to copy student name 4. I want to print what is student name 4. Okay, first what I have done is I have taken a student name 3. I initialized that to Joseph 3. Then I have taken a variable called student name 4. I initialized that to Joseph 4. Now what I'm saying is I'm saying student name 4 is equal to student name 3. So what I'm saying is the student name 4 is not Joseph 4, but it is Joseph 3. That is what I'm trying to do. Can I do it or not? As per the rule, I'm allowed to, but I'd like to cross check and see if this actually works or not. I'd like to copy the variable name. I'd like to copy the variable name. So here I'll clear the screen. Java C variable name dot Java. Yes. Sorry, it is saying on line number 18, we need a semicolon. Where is line number 18? Okay, so there is a semicolon that is missing. That is fine. I'd like to compile it once more. And yes, I'm able to compile Java variable 6. So when you see student name 4 is Joseph 3. Why did this happen? Because as per my rule, we can initialize a variable, then assign it to another variable. That is called as some variable reusability, or you can just play around as per your logic. So that is what my variable naming actually says. But But I think we have already seen that rule all the way. There is just another way of representing that rule. Just for our understanding, I'd like to actually highlight it. And what is that? What is that? Particular variable, particular variable can be declared only once. Okay, so uh it is the same, by the way. It is the same because like we cannot have the same variable two times. Okay, I think we have already seen one more example related to this one. This is something that I have written as a rule. The D the line called D and here if both are same and similar, but we are writing it in a different way. So we have completed the first and second part of our today's class. The agenda, the first and second is all over. By the way, you should be very well versed about all these naming rules of variables only when you are very clear. This very clear comes only when you practice a lot, right? When you practice a lot by all these variable names and naming conventions, you would write Java program in a more readable way, and anyone who sees your program will get impressed. Without these conditions or without these rules, even if you write a very good code, people don't get impressed because you'd be using variable names as I, J, K. It's like that. Sometimes even I use those variables, but I'm teaching you how to code, right? When you learn something, it's okay to use. But when you code the same in a project, or when you write it in an exam, or when you write it in an interview, generally you should follow all these names, rules, and all these conditions. So with this, let's go to the last topic. Last topic for today. Let's go to the last topic for today. And I'd like to open a internal working of a Java program. So what I'd like to do is I want to go back to the basics. I want to open the first program that I have written. I want to go to the first program that I have written. Where is the first program? Let's go to Mercy 2025. My first program, right? There is a Java file. So my first program, maybe what I would like to do is I want to create my first program just once more. Let me open this. This is getting opened in Visual Studio Code. Okay, I just copied this. My first program. So what I'd like to do is I want to add one more file. I'll say my first program 1. Okay, my first program 1. So I'd like to say language. It is Java. Java. Yes. So I have my first program 1, right? So I'd like to compile this. So I'd like to say first, what I'd like to do is how or what happens internally when you write a Java program. This is the intention of mine in teaching this section today. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to say copy, and then file, save as, save as, save as. I'd like to say .java. So I have done this. So what is the first step? The first step is so something like this. Something like this. Programmer writes .java. Right. Okay. Programmer writes the .java file. This is the first thing that we have written. Okay, which is very good. Which is very good. Which is very good. Now, what we like to do is we would like to compile it. Right? So I'd like to say Java C compile. I want to compile this .java. So when I do this, a new file will get generated. That is what I have actually told you. Yeah, there is a new file that gets generated. What is that? What is that? That is a .class file, right? So I'd like to say my first program. This is 17 to 2025 at 8:26. A .class file got generated. Then, sir, you would ask, sir, what is there in this .class file? I would like to see it once. I would like to see it once. So here, when I'd like to open this in Notepad++, when I'd like to open this in Notepad++, what is there? The .java file. When I open, I have my first program, which I'm able to understand. I'm learning as a human. I understand all this. Okay. Now, using a command, I am able to compile this successfully. Sir, I'd like to see what is there inside this my first program. Let me try to open it in Notepad++. Right. Oh, by the way, you see this? There is a lot of there is a lot of thick black characters, and I really don't know what it is. There are a few things like this: Java, Lang, system, my first program, right? And there is some other thing. All these things are present over here. Do I understand what it is? Just by seeing it, do I understand what it is? Here, when I see my first program, I'm able to understand that I'm able to print this. Okay, I'm able to print this. Okay, but when I see the .class file, am I able to understand all this? Am I able to understand all this? The answer is no. Answer is no. Okay, so I'd like to write the same. I'd like to write the same when we compile a .java file, we get a .class file that programmer cannot understand. Then who understands this? Then who understands this .class file? Who understands this .class file? So the first command is Java C to compile, and then how to run it is Java and then the class name, right? So the one that runs this .class file will understand this file. Okay, who is the one that actually runs? That is called as JRE. Okay, so that is JRE. So that is nothing but Java runtime environment. So Java runtime environment, this understands the .class file. Okay, .class file, and then only by Java, when you run this .class file in a Java runtime environment, you can see the output on the console. You can see the output on the console. So how is that? Java and then my first program, right? So I'd like to go and copy this. Copy, and then this is the. So you can see this is my first Java program, and I have learned it today. These two are the system.out.println statements. So what is the input for this? This is a .class file that is the input for this, right? I did not understand as a programmer. I'm a human. I did not understand what all is present in this .class file. But Java runtime environment is able to understand this file, and it is able to produce the output. It is able to produce the output. I'd like to open a small image that actually shows you what are the different steps so that we can correlate of whatever happens. So how Java works. The students, you concentrate here fully. this is very important thing. Even after having so many years of experience, I tend to see many people who don't even understand how Java works internally. So let me explain it to you in a short, brief format. So Java programmer is here, Java developer. Maybe you can think it as me right now. And when you practice, it is you. You write the Java file, which is .java file. In our case, my first program .java. You have written that, and then you give it to the compiler. You give it to the compiler, and using Java C, using Java C, you run this command, you give it to the compiler, and it produces a .class file. What is present inside a .class file? What is present inside a .class file? That is called as whatever we have seen over here. Whatever we have seen over here is called as bytecode. This is a binary one. Okay. This is called as a bytecode, and bytecode is not understood by programmers. It is understood by Java runtime environment. So what is that? Inside JDK, we have JRE. JDK is nothing but Java Development Kit. We have Java runtime environment called JRE inside JDK. And this Java runtime environment will understand this .class file. So we are giving this command. We are giving this command Java my first program. This is understood by JRE. And there is some component called JVM that will call the main method that you have written inside this program. So we have JVM inside JRE, and this JVM will call the main method that you have written in your program. Where is the main method? It is there on line number 3. It is there on line number 3. It will call the main method. In the public static void main file, it will show. And then you will see the output on the console. What is the output? The output is whatever you have written inside the system.out.println statement. So that is the output that you can see on the console. So this is all a chain. There are six steps that happen when you write a Java program, and all these 6 steps combined will give you an output. And this is very important for you to learn, because you should know what happens internally, so that you'd gain even more confidence. But by the way, for the students who don't understand what is JDK, what is JRE, what is JVM, that's fine, because that is not the intention of our today's class. Maybe I'd be talking about all these things in our upcoming classes. But for now, you just understand that .class file is understood by JRE. Where is JRE? It is inside JDK. So inside JDK, there is JRE, and inside JRE, there is one component called JVM, Java Virtual Machine, that will identify where is the main method, and that main method is identified. And then if you have a system.out.println statement, you'd be able to see the output on your console. The output on your console. Output on your console. So with this,